everyone, and welcome to our live. Tonight, we discuss the outlook, performances, and policies of the JLP, the PNP, and the UIC so that you, our viewers, can understand the choices that are before you. Tonight, we have with us Mr. Joseph L. Patterson, President of the UIC. We also have with us Mr. Blake Brown, a representative from the Jamaica Labour Party. He is president of the Young Jamaica, which is a youth arm of the Jamaica Labour Party. We also have other guests that will be joining us very shortly. And so we look forward to that as well. Gentlemen, a pleasant good night.
Good night to you as well, Mr.
Good,
Nelson.
good evening, Mr. Nelson. Good evening, viewers. And just a slight correction: I'm not the president of Young Jamaica. I am the policy research and policy director. However, I'm representing the organization tonight.
Right. I stand corrected there. Thank you so much for that. I do appreciate that. All right. So we should have with us as well Mr. Glenn Bishop. And Mr. Bishop, he is someone with strong convictions on the issues in our country. He sees himself as neutral, so not necessarily representing a political party itself. So we look forward to seeing if Mr. Bishop will be joining us. We should have also had with us Mr. Dwight Brooks from the PNPYO as a representative of the People's National Party. I spoke to Mr. Brooks early on, so I do expect him to be joining us. So hopefully we'll see Mr. Brooks soon. We also should be having Mr. Dr. Mark Ricketts. So we are also looking forward to having Dr. Ricketts and so he can introduce himself and we can let you guys know more about Dr. Ricketts. So looking forward to the discussion tonight, gentlemen. So in terms of comparing and contrasting the policies of the registered political parties, we have the Jamaica Labour Party, the People's National Party, and the United Independence Congress, the UIC. So as we stated before, gentlemen, 1 minute take on your stance. We have Mr. Bishop, Glenn Bishop, joining us just now. I just mentioned, Mr. Bishop, that I told our viewers that we should be expecting you. So I'm going to allow the members of the panel to give us a minute take, your view, your stance on the country's affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And,
Yes.
and since we are on the UIC turf, so to speak, I'm going to defer to the others to speak first, and then I will go afterwards. Just being a good host here.
Okay, so Mr. Brown, do you want to begin?
Perfect. And as a member of the governing party, it's important that we are able to stand on our achievements and what we have done with our time in government and the mandate that the people has given us. I can stand here and proudly say that Jamaica is in the best place it has ever been in its history. In terms of major crimes being down, the first time in over 20 years, an economy that is consistently and reliably growing, public debt which is down, and of course, major investments in infrastructure, in education, in water, in utilities. Jamaica is looking up. And we have much more work to be done. However, we can proudly say that our 8 years in government, we have used that time and we have used that time well.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your outlook from your party's standpoint. Mr. Bishop, your take?
I'm just going to introduce myself. Glenn Bishop, independent thinker, is the entity that I think I want to represent this evening. Just an independent product of the Jamaican education system. And in saying that I am a product of the Jamaican education system, I want to add that a good education never ends. So even though I got the framework for my education from our system, I ventured onward in my education to realize that our system has been shortchanging the Jamaican populace. The fact is, a child can't know the value of the money that you give them except for for their needs. So if you give a child $1,000 bill, you'll find that the child will go to a shop and somebody can give them one lollipop and take the entire $1,000 because the lollipop is the greatest desire for that child. I think I am here to I want to respond to what I heard Mr. Brown saying, to say that I think the Jamaica Labour Party is giving that lollipop to Jamaica and taking the value, or the real value of Jamaica, to state your accomplishments as the signal to say that the country is moving in a better place. That is hardly, I think, what it takes. You see, the average Jamaican should feel that upward mobility from which you speak. And if we are always going to look at what we were able to get from the process, and I mean we as individuals, then I think the nation will always be falling while a few individuals enrich themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop, for your independent viewpoint there. The independent thinker is very important in Jamaica. Mr. Patterson?
Yeah, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our viewers who are watching tonight and hope that you will find the conversation enriching and informative. It's very important when we think about Jamaica that we don't think in isolation in terms of just 8 years. We need to think about what has been happening to Jamaica since the two colonial parties have took charge of this country. You know, for some 356 years, the colonial powers had our people under the oppression of chattel slavery. And then 100 years after that, in terms of colonization, having a colonial government in charge. And then in 1944, we got self-governance. The JLP won the first two terms on the self-governance, and they also won the first two terms of independence. They have had the first opportunity to set the tone for Jamaica and to show us where we're going to go as a nation. Unfortunately, they failed miserably, and in both instances were replaced by the PNP, who is the only party in the history of Jamaica who has been given 18 and a half straight years to set Jamaica on the right path. They too failed miserably. So after 80 years of these two parties, we now need to take stock of Jamaica, and we have a good barometer by which to measure Jamaica. We can look at a country like Singapore that got independence around 1965, similar to us getting independence in 1962. Singapore has taken the next 25 years of their first years of independence to become a first world nation, while Jamaica continues to struggle. We have a GDP today of between 5,000 and 6,000, while Singapore is now at 90,000 in GDP per capita, per person in their country. They have a safe and secure nation. They have a very thriving economy. They have an excellent education system, a near perfect healthcare system, and one of the best GDP growth record the world has ever seen. In fact, the people of Singapore are now richer than the people of America. And they have done that without 1% of the resources that we have as a nation. The Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party cannot stand here tonight and tell us that we can be proud of anything they've accomplished. In fact, the current government is now recovering from what they have subjected us to during the years of COVID. They locked us down, they destroyed our small businesses, and they sought to punish our people, promising them to not even give them water unless they were to subject themselves to an injection. My fellow Jamaicans, we must not be dismayed by the fact that they have failed us. We must look forward and say that there's an opportunity before us today. And the opportunity is this. We have a new way forward, and that is to look to the UIC as not only the savior of Jamaica, but the organization, the political movement, the party with the plan to make Jamaica what Marcus Garvey wanted us to be, a united Jamaica, a liberated Jamaica, an empowered Jamaica. We're going to talk more about that tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patterson. So, gentlemen, I want to start with the big monster in the room first.
Well,
Crime.
moderator, if I may interject, and not to usurp, the role that you play, but something was said, and I'm quite concerned by it in terms of
Right.
the government to threaten to withhold water for those who didn't take what I presume Mr. Patterson is referring to, the vaccine. Mr. Patterson, you made a statement. Can you provide factual proof of that statement being actually said?
I
Absolutely.
think in particular
And
he's
what
referring to Mr. Tufton's statement about take the vaccine and then you get the water. So Mr. Brown, I think you need to concede that Mr. Patterson has a
Absolutely.
point.
So
No,
what
no.
I'd like to do though, Mr. Brown, and thank you so much, Mr. Bishop, is to let us have an orderly process. So the moderator is going to guide us, but I do respect the fact that Mr. Brown, you would have a question like that or any other question. So please note it down, and then at the appointed time, I'm sure the moderator will allow us to ask questions of each other.
Yes, for
Definitely.
sure. Go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead, moderator.
No, I'm saying for sure, for sure. We definitely will have the time for that and so on. So already, it seems like it's going to be a very, very interesting discussion that we're going to have. I was mentioning though, gentlemen, that I want to start with the monster in the room, which is crime. So we understand the politics, but we also understand the issues at hand. So, oftentimes statistics are stated, whether that be from the government or from the opposition or whomever. However, crime itself is an issue that never seems to go away. And of course, this is a global thing. However, one of the things I want us to oversee tonight is Jamaica's position in comparison to perhaps other countries. But before we delve into that, I have a video clip of the prime minister and also one of the opposition leader on the issue of crime. I want to play them concurrently, and then we can jump at that if everyone is okay with that. Let me see if I can get the first video up.
Is unbalanced and has led Jamaica to becoming an increasingly violent and dangerous place. Generally speaking, Jamaica needs to tackle the deep inequalities in our society, investing in repairing the most egregious manifestations of that inequality if we are to achieve sustained improvements in our national security situation. There is
And let me play one from the Prime Minister himself.
The guns fuel crime. They are an accelerant. They are needed to protect drugs that are transshipped through our borders. They are then turned to deal with other forms of criminal activities. We have seen in Jamaica where the weapon of choice is no longer the AK-47. It is the AR-15, it is the Glock. These are guns that are manufactured.
Right. So these are two separate takes, one from the Prime Minister and one from the leader of the opposition. Mr. Golding focused on the idea of inequality and solving the more broader social issues that needs to occur in order to solve the monster of crime. I know that's just one take by the Prime Minister, in all fairness to the Prime Minister, about guns. But the Prime Minister mentioned that guns have a serious impact on crime. And oftentimes the guns are coming elsewhere, outside of Jamaica. And so that is a serious issue. But let's take, for example, a country such as Iceland. It is perhaps known to be the country with the least crime rate. Their reason for such success is based on the respect of the people in Iceland for the police force in general, the educational system, social services, and welfare. Gentlemen, as a nation, Jamaica, how do we get there to tackle this monster of crime? Mr. Blake, you want to go first?
I went first the last time. I'm more interested to hear the UIC's position on this matter.
Mr. Patterson, you want to take that up?
Absolutely, but I'd much rather allow Mr. Bishop to go first, as the independent thinker in the room.
Mr. Independent Thinker, go ahead.
All right. Crime. Let's first remember that crime never occurs in a vacuum. So when we speak about crime, we have to speak about first the people and the motivations that would propel an individual to commit crime. And then we'll have to assess the types of crimes. So if we're going to speak specifically about murder or homicide and the homicide rates and the fact that Jamaica is the homicide capital of the world, then it's a different conversation about than the conversation about crime. You see, crime in Jamaica is like land that I don't even want to get into the details of the politics, but I will speak about this JLP administration and the persons, the members of this JLP administration, owning a lot of land in this 8-year span that you have spoke about, Mr. Brown. I want to say to Jamaica that we need to be more vigilant. You see, when we elect leaders, we need to have frameworks in place to ensure that they cannot just use their position to enrich themselves. And there are many members of this parliament over the 8 years have, let us just say, they have procured more land than their salary could pay for. And this is one of the areas where Jamaica is not even paying attention, because a lot of the means that they would have used to obtain these lands can constitute crime. Now, with that said, we're going to talk about the excuse that a lot of persons want to put about the socio-economic conditions of the Jamaican nationals being the reason for crime. And I want to put that aside as a myth. The truth is, most of the persons who are killing in Jamaica, they are not killing because they are hungry. They're killing maybe because the means that they used to get their livelihood was already a crime. And if somebody that they were doing business with was to shortchange them, they can't report it to the police. They would have to seek other means of getting justice from the transactions gone bad in these situations. Now, when you have a government where they spend a lot of time and money passing the Data Protection and Privacy Act, which is basically a law that they are using to say that if you see a politician doing something wrong in Jamaica and you take out your cell phone and start recording him, you are the person committing crime. You see, this word crime, when we have politicians who are spending their efforts to ensure that you cannot catch them doing their misdeeds, instead of spending efforts on maybe the Bail Act or the Firearms Act, I don't even think there should be an FLA if we want to reduce crime or homicide rates in Jamaica. I think just like the US was able to amend their laws so that the citizens can arm themselves, I think Jamaica should move in that direction even before we try to make Jamaica a republic. The truth is, a free man can protect his or herself. That is one of the accolades or the responsibilities of a free man. Your responsibility to protect yourself. In our constitution, it says that though the government has the responsibility or the expectation to ensure that we have just laws and the citizens' rights are not breached, it goes on to say that we or us, the citizens, have the responsibility to ensure that our rights are not infringed by even the government. Now, the government likes the fact that our schools are keeping our citizens ignorant of these facts. And that is also a breeding ground for more crime. You see, if you want to fix crime, you check the crime first. You check the box for the crime. And then you have an honest conversation about the framework that contributes to that crime. And when we are ready for the honest conversations, and that is when we can fix the problem. So if we're going to stay here, let us use words like murder or homicide and not use crime as the word. As I said, I have given points about it that we can develop in any area that maybe the panel or the viewers would want us to develop this conversation. But I think please make sure that Jamaica is ready to embrace the truthful answers of these questions once we start raising them.
Mr. Bishop, you made a good point about the definitiveness of crime versus homicide versus theft. But I know that you mentioned that it's the concept of crime having of the social condition of the people, and social is always tied to the economic condition as well. You mentioned that that's a myth. So you don't believe that, furtherance of what you said, that the idea of fixing the country's social and economic problem, that won't contribute to solving the complexity of crime, whether that be homicide, whether that be theft, whatever. You don't believe
All
in
right. Let me give you an example of the point that I'm trying to make. Let's take Jean Panton, for example. Jean and Panton. By the means or the measure of most Jamaicans, she was affluent. She was financially affluent, a lady with means. But she was still in a position where she needed more. Some persons say it's greed that caused it. She wasn't hungry. She wanted more. It's a mindset. There are other persons living in communities in Jamaica that survive with maybe $300 a day, 300 Jamaican dollars a day, and they find a way to get a meal with that $300, and they don't see a need to go and rob somebody's money. Do we understand what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
Okay.
I'll give the other gentleman a chance here, and then perhaps if needs be, we can come back to that point. Mr. Patterson.
Sure. When we think about crime in Jamaica, we have to go back to first principles. If you were to check on the Jamaican people during the early years of our independence, and even prior, we were a relatively peaceful lot. Most of our anger was directed towards the colonial masters that were still controlling most of the assets in Jamaica through the plantocracy, and today through the PSOJ oligarchy. What has been the genesis of our crime problem is really the introduction of partisan politics. And that was strategic by the colonial masters. They've always sought to introduce division into a society when they're leaving it, or even when they're trying to control it. They divide in order to conquer. And so partisan politics was introduced as the means to get us to be divided, to fight against each other. Now, you might recall that the two colonial parties were very instrumental in importing guns into the country, giving it to our young men and women, creating dons and gangs and garrisons, ghettos, even promoting squatting communities and withholding the land from the people of Jamaica and causing many of them to scrunch to make a living. These two same parties borrowed tremendously and put Jamaica into tremendous amount of debts without seeing those funds being spent on things that would have developed the nation. For example, in the early 1960s, the Jamaica Labour Party, when they were in power, they received tremendous amount of money, millions of dollars to build schools in Jamaica. They built half the amount of schools at twice the price for those schools, resulting in a shift system in Jamaica where you had too few school spaces, too many kids in one school, you have to put them on shift system. This affected our learning. So you had a lot of learning issues developing from there. The country was then sacrificed over the next several years to pay down that debt. You might hear the current government boasting that we're no longer at 150% debt to GDP. We're much lower now, but that's at a huge sacrifice. The Jamaican people were sacrificed on the altar of bad governance, of corruption. When we talk about crime, we need to make sure we understand what crime is. Somebody was asking for the definition. One of the biggest crime in Jamaica is corruption, because that denies you the money for school, the money for healthcare, the money for road maintenance, the money for maintaining a good railway system, the money to ensure Jamaica had and would maintain one of the best airlines in the world. So we have lost tremendously because of the crime of corruption, and that spirals into other forms of crime. Mr. Bishop is right. You don't normally have crime directly as because of poverty. You can be very poor and not have a lot of crime. But when you have what Mr. Golden called massive inequity, and the people who are suffering from that inequity looks on and see what's really happening, they see no leadership. They see that their leaders are corrupt, their political leadership is corrupt, their political parties are corrupt, the police force is corrupt. They see that to get ahead in life, you have to be connected to somebody. You can't get there because of meritocracy. So a bright student like Mr. Blake Brown here could go to school and study hard and come out and he has to find connections in order for him to grow up the ladder. He can't just perform very well and, you know, succeed because he has done well in school and come out and apply himself effectively. So these are the real causation of the crime problem in Jamaica. If we had not given so many of our young men guns and created the garrisons and the ghettos as a result, we would not have the problem we have today. So if we want to solve the problem, we must begin by understanding that we cannot give those who created it the role now to correct it. In fact, I believe most of them are complicit and are compromised because of it. If they were to really seek to, you know, get rid of the crime monster we have in Jamaica, really seek to get rid of it, then you're going to have some things coming out of the woodwork. I'll give you an example. Go down to Central Kingston today. The people down there are suffering from turf wars happening between warring gangs and factions. And I'm certain that if you go and peel away the onion a bit, you're going to find that there's some political interference happening in that community and creating the problems we have today. When you have leaders of parties creating garrison communities that preserve for them a continuous block of electors, when you have persons getting more than 100% vote in their constituency, in the past, not today, it has subsided a bit, but these are the genesis of the crime problems that we're seeing in Jamaica. And we keep asking the same people, the same parties, the same groups that created the problem, we're asking them now to solve the problem. They cannot solve the problem. No matter how much billions they throw at it, it will continue to be a main. Yes, you're going to hear from my friend that the numbers are coming down, but the people of Jamaica are not feeling that. The people are still feeling very insecure. The people of Jamaica still know that they cannot trust the police enough to cooperate with them fully. So the UIC has a solution for that. We want to have a true community policing arrangement, one that makes the police officer not just this enforcer, but really a social worker, somebody who is connected with the community, lives in the community, grows up with the community. So the mother, the father, the kids know him or her, and I'm talking about more than one, of course, in the different communities, and forming a bond. And so when there are potential problems, we head it off at the beginning rather than simply focusing now on trying to shoot to kill as soon as we possibly can. Let's instead focus on building vibrant communities, productive communities. A simple thing like community centers. Most communities in Jamaica, you go across the 14 parishes, the 63 constituencies, none of them, except for like, you know, in New Kingston, none of them have a very nice, well-designed public space that we call a park. None of them have a well-designed, well-staffed, well-managed community center where the young people, when they finish school or work or whatever they're doing, there's this recreational space with a gym, with, you know, childcare facility, with library facility, somewhere that brings the community together, that is well managed and well maintained and gives pride to the community and pride to our society. Instead, if you look at Jamaica, it's like a very unkept house. If this was a house and you had parents in it, you would want to lock up these parents and say you have abandoned your children. You have failed to maintain adequate, you know, environment for them to have a good, decent form of living. I believe it's time for us to step back and stop accepting the mediocrity that we have in Jamaica and look beyond these two parties to something much better. And the crime problem will go away, beginning with us getting rid of these two colonial parties as the managers of our government in our country.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Mr. Patterson, you mentioned the educational aspect and the partisan aspect as far as crime is concerned. And from what I take from your standpoint is that we need to focus more on a holistic approach to, you know, what we said is monster of crime. I know in the video the Prime Minister was alluding to the idea that guns are coming from outside, and be that true, be that not true. Mr. Patterson, do you believe we make too many excuses for the solution towards crime. I mean, crime, like we said, it's a complex situation, just like almost any issue that we deal with.
Yeah,
But
I
do
mean,
you believe, as a country, we make too many excuses? And of course, that could be tied to your response with regards
yeah.
to the partisanship, instead of building a holistic
Well,
approach.
we have had several crime plans over the years. We've, both parties have been giving us a number of crime plans. But here's a simple matter, very, very simple matter. What if we were to dedicate our army to doing its job of securing our borders and controlling our customs so that we eliminate what the prime minister sees as a big problem, which is the guns are coming in. Yes, the guns are coming in, but that's because you're failing. If you weren't failing to manage the country properly, the guns wouldn't be, the illegal guns that is, wouldn't be coming in the way they are. So let us repurpose our army, give them full control over controlling the border so nothing comes in that shouldn't come in and nothing goes out. And of course, you have to tear away the political or the political interference, because that's a big part of Jamaica's problem. You always have the politicians stepping in where they shouldn't and creating more problems. But let's lock down the borders like sardine and make sure the guns can't come in, the ammunitions can't come in. Starve the gangs of the guns. That's number one. Number two, let's make sure all of our young people, when they leave school, if they're not going on to university or colleges, let's implement the UIC program, the Youth Enterprise, Youth Employment Solution, and give these children quality jobs that will pay them a decent wage that allows them to focus on building their skills. I know you're going to hear that the Prime Minister is announcing stuff like these and trying stuff like these, but it's not a comprehensive solution. So even if they announce new programs, they continue to fail, because you're going to end up with what we had in the education ministry, where a minister goes in and some serious things happen, and before you know it, millions of dollars are lost and the programs are not effective. So we need effective leadership. And I can tell you this, if we give the two parties 500 more years, they will still not achieve what UIC achieved in 25.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Mr. Brown, it's your chance to respond now and give
You know,
your own take.
I'm happy that I can stand here and I can speak from a position of fact. Because fortunately, the fact is, in 2023, Jamaica experienced the lowest rate of major crimes in 25 years. That's a fact. Undisputed, once you do the numbers, speak to the people, that is the fact of the matter. So, what led to this? Again, fortunately, I can speak from a basis of fact. Plan Secure Jamaica. What does that entail? It entails investments in our security forces, providing them with the vehicles they need to move around, providing them with the body cams so they can trust them. It entails investments in the Jamaica Defense Force, ensuring that they have the vessels to patrol our waters and the equipment to go around and the radar systems to track and to identify when unscrupulous entities are coming into the country. What does Plan Secure Jamaica also entail? It also entails the use of states of public emergencies and zones of special operations to disrupt and degrade the capabilities of gangs, to provide our social workers and our social safety net to go in to establish peace and give these communities the social investment that they deserve. So you speak about community centers. When you look at, for example, the flagship communities in the Montego Bays, they have the community centers. When you speak of entrepreneurship, they provided them with grants. They provided them with the technical ability to operate these businesses. So Plan Secure Jamaica, it's a comprehensive plan. And most importantly, it's a plan that has results. The lowest rate of major crime in 25 years. Fact, not fiction, truth, not lies. And I will leave it at that.
Mr. Brown, I just want to put something to you. Thank you so much for your take. In the period 2010 to 2012, the Jamaica Labour Party had mentioned. I know I think at 2012 there was an election, but that last period before Portia Simpson Miller came back and won again. uh, the exchange between Bruce Golding and Andrew Holness. But prior to that, during the Golding administration, there were mentions of crime having significant improvement. So, Mr. Brown, oftentimes the statistics will say there's improvement here. So, in another 20 years, we'll hear again, or in another 10 years, we'll hear again that crime has. But at the same time, the Jamaican people, they're not seeing it that way. There are been various reports of criminal activities and murders that have affected many individuals. So, beyond the idea of having a certain stat that crime is decreasing, or by what margin, by what measurement, and what is the latitude towards the measurement that we're using, um, what is the solution, the holistic solution to take
Well,
Jamaica from where it's at to improving it on a consistent basis, a longer period of time? What is the
well,
plan
look,
of the Jamaica Labour Party for that?
again, we have a plan, and we have a plan that has demonstrated results. Plan Secure Jamaica's work is not only in 2023, the decline has been consistent since 2020. Consistent decline in major crime year after year after year. It's a plan, again, I'll say it and I say it once again, it's a plan that works.
Um,
It's not a 1 year decline, it's not a 2 year decline. It has been a decline over 8 consecutive years. And
all
those
right, so I
eight
want to
consecutive years have no, let me finish. And those eight
go
consecutive
ahead.
years have coincided with the implementation of that plan under this government.
Right.
Yes, before in the administration, there were declines. However, what happened? The People's National Party took the reins of rampant criminality and the Jamaican people not feeling safe in their homes and an increase in major crime. We took power in 2016. The people decided that it is time for a change. And what's the result? 8 consecutive years of decline in major crime.
Right. Well, I get that.
You
But
still
take, for
want to
example, let me go
maintain
back.
that
Let me,
statistic with the incident that occurred the other day in Kleiner?
Repeat. I didn't hear that.
With the
Repeat it.
worst, with the worst mass shooting that has occurred in Jamaican history in some 20 odd years, you still want to maintain that? You're saying a
I
significant reduction in major crimes. This is because maybe the perpetrators of these crimes decided that they didn't want to do it. The JLP is demonstrated no ability to have any impactful control
so
or change factor in the number of
well the
crimes
question
committed in Jamaica. If
well
if you
well
are purporting to the idea, if you are purporting to the idea that the zones of specially operation are somewhat impactful in crime, then it's clear because the police force is in an era. Then we have seen where the criminal elements just take themselves and move to another area, and then you'll have crime going up in that area.
Mr. Brown, I think
What
again
significant
again I
change did the JLP party make in that 8 year period that you can definitively state that impacted crime to go down this lower trajectory? I think you guys are just playing with the statistics.
the methodologies of the JSAFE statistics remains the same. So
Um,
how we have done the calculation has have not changed. So the
in
comparison between now and 8 years ago and 10 years ago
You're using,
remains
all
the
right,
same.
let's
But
not argue.
let's
let
let's have
me finish.
each person speak
There's that
appropriately.
point. You asked, what can I definitively say we have changed that has led to improvements in major crimes?
Right, right.
We have invested the most of any administration into national security as well as education. It's a two-pronged approach. You invest in policing and the capabilities of our police and security forces. At the same time, you ensure that our people are more educated. The fact of the matter is, an educated person, they don't go take up a gun and gun down someone or a whole community in cold blood. And also, we do this in an
Beg to
economy
differ.
that is
I beg to
growing,
differ.
an economy that
Beg-
provides opportunity, an economy that provides opportunity for the Jamaican people to earn an honest living. And again, the facts are clear: 13 consecutive quarters of economic growth.
Okay, Mr.
The
Moderator.
people, the
Let's not
people,
change
the
the topic.
people, the
Let's
people, the
finish with
people of
crime
the
first.
people of Jamaica now are more confident in the economic outlook than any other time in our in our history.
Mr.
Okay, Mr.
Moderator.
Brown.
Mr.
They
Mr. Brown,
Moderator.
like, they
before
like,
Um,
they like where the economy is going. They feel
I get that.
confident in it. They feel that they now believe that they have a place in it.
I have a
Mr.
follow up for you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, I
No,
have a
Mr.
follow up
Sure,
Mr.
for
go
you.
ahead.
Moderator.
You're
Just a
using
quick
Mr.
follow up.
Moderator, you probably have to allow us to cross-examine each other more
Yes,
quickly
for
because if
sure,
we,
without a doubt.
the,
Without a
the
doubt.
time gap is very far because
Yes.
Mr. Brown is being very facetious. Jamaica's always has an up and down graph when it comes on to crime. There are
Right, right.
there are periods where you're going to see spikes and then you're going to see drops and you're going to see spikes.
As I
The,
mentioned
the
previously.
trajectory of crime in Jamaica, the trajectory has been like this. Just as how the inflation rate in Jamaica has been like this,
I, I,
and just as how, hold on a
One
second,
second,
Mr.
Mr.
Brown,
One
and
second.
just as how the exchange rate in Jamaica has been like this. Now, if you narrow in on any segment of that trajectory and just look at a small segment and say, let's take out 5 years or 3 years or 8 years even, you're going to see fluctuations. The Prime Minister of Jamaica has embarked on a mission of misleading the Jamaican people, but the people of Jamaica feel the results of its failure. They may not be able to read statistics or understand that there are three types of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. They may not fully understand that, but they do understand what they feel every day. The truth is, we cannot sleep with our windows and doors open. The truth is, we continue to spend billions of dollars on putting on burglar bars on our doors, on our windows. And the truth is, many businesses in Jamaica continue to suffer from feeling insecure, spending a lot of money on security services, on cameras, on security systems, because Jamaica is a very unsafe and unsecure environment. And it doesn't matter how much Mr. Brown tells you that the statistics is suggesting that major crimes are going down. Crimes in Jamaica, the crime level in Jamaica remains intolerable and is directly related to the mismanagement of this Jamaica Labour Party government and the PNP as well. The problem is, every time one of them is in opposition, they promise us that they're going to fix the problem, and when they come in, they don't. The JLP has spent the most money on crime than any other administration before. That is true. And if you were to compare the result relative to the amount of money spent, it is no better than that of the previous administration, which at that time spent more than the previous administration. So they're spending more, but they're getting less. The same is true for our education system. More has been spent on education, but the quality of education and the outcome remains poor. And more Jamaicans are still lining up at the U.S. Embassy trying to leave the very secure country that Mr. Brown says we now have.
I understand that. Yeah.
Again,
Mr. Brown, let me just
no,
say
Mr.
something.
Patterson,
Mr. Brown,
no, let me say something, Mr. Patterson.
I just wanted to
You
add a
asked.
point to that. I just wanted to add something to that, and perhaps you can take that into
Sure,
consideration in your
sure,
response.
go ahead.
I know the discussion is very heated and everyone, but we have to allow everyone to get something in. But I just want to refer back to something that Mr. Bishop said. Mr. Bishop had mentioned that we have to separate the terms and the ideas of what exactly crime is, because we speak of statistics, and there is a statistics out there that states that from 2014 to 2023, there has been an increase in homicide per 100,000 persons in Jamaica from 36.4 to 60.9. So a lot of those years, the administration of the Jamaica Labour Party was in power during those times. So yes, I agree that with Mr. Bishop that definitely when we look at the general scope of what crime is, we have to kind of pinpoint that, because homicide here is saying that that's not improving. So you can take it from there.
Again, we must speak from a position of fact and not fiction. And on the matter of statistics. We
I'm on the
must be very
website with the
careful.
statistics. Homicide rate in Jamaica from
Bishop, I'm going to
2014 to
allow you to go very
2023.
soon.
A number of
we must be
homicides per
very careful
100,000 inhabitants.
We can't all
not to
talk at the same
mislead.
time. We can, Mr. Bishop. Let Mr.
We
Brown
must be
briefly respond, and then I'll call on you. Go ahead,
we
brief.
must be very careful not to mislead. And I note for a fact here in our 47 minutes and 30 seconds time on this live, Mr. Patterson has at this point quoted no factor figures. Again, he has quoted no factor figures. He has stated what he felt and what he thinks and what he believes. Unfortunately, that does not collaborate with reality. But
Mr. Brown,
he raised that point on the note of cherry picking time periods. Again, once the JSAFE methodology and the same methodology that has been used from 1999, once that is applied, Jamaica has experienced the lowest level of major crime in over 25 years. That is a
Okay,
fact.
all right,
I'm gonna
Mr.
get Mr.
Brown,
That
Bishop in
that
Mr.
trouble.
Brown, you see,
that is a fact.
I want,
And on the note,
Mr.
not before you go, Mr. Bishop, on the note of the spend in national security, the spend is necessary. Crime, we inherited a country that was teetering on collapse, a country that almost became a failed state. So it was necessary to spend how we spent on national security to stabilize the ship and to ensure that the people of Jamaica can look forward to a safer country in the future. I won't stand here and promise immediate returns, and we'll able to take off our grills instantly. But again, the fact is clear: major crimes are down.
Mr. Bishop, go
all
ahead.
right, Mr. Brown, I want to see if I can help you to clarify why major crimes are down. I want our viewers, I want you to pay attention to the fact that Mr. Brown is ensuring that he maintains the statement with the phrase major crimes being the operative phrase in his statement because he wants to refer to one statistics. Saying major crimes is down in the Jamaican context is it's a misleading statement when most Jamaicans fear homicide. They fear being murdered on their way home. They fear being murdered in a robbery. So we should pay attention to what the real problem is if we really want a solution. Most Jamaicans in the diaspora paying attention to a program like this. They want to find out what is the situation on the ground. Should they feel more afraid to come home or is it safe to come home? So let us stick to homicide, Mr. Brown. And any statistic that you give, please let it relate to homicide. Now, I am going to quote some statistics here from, I think it's Statin. So the information is statista.com. Homicide rate in Jamaica from 2014 to 2023. And I want to say, on that point now, Mr. Brown, we are not trending down, we are trending up. So
Mr.
that's a
Patterson, you want to
statement
chime
now.
in?
Mr. Holness wants the person in the diaspora who thinks that he's doing a good job to think that he's actually solving the problems. But here's the fact. Persons in the diaspora, it is not getting better. More persons are being murdered in Jamaica, in Clarendon just the other day, 8 persons one time, and there are more persons in the hospital suffering. So let us face the facts. No, when you face these facts, what you're going to find is it might lead you to the prisons of Jamaica. You might find out that what we are hearing now on the ground in Jamaica is that all of those persons may have been murdered based on the order of someone that is in prison. That's what we are hearing, And we are seeing in Jamaica now where they just release another person who is you see, this is where it gets controversial now. And we're going to have the Gaza fans wanting to kill me just because I am here as a person willing to say the audio tapes that I heard sound like Vibes Cartel is guilty. I like the fact that he was released, and I wanted I want the fact that he was released on the technicality to make Jamaicans aware of the fact that the law is something very important. It is something that we should be paying attention to. Now, when you start paying attention to these things, you realize that A solution, a real solution cannot be found on via partisan lines, Mr. Brown. And here I am the one speaking the facts on the ground. And this is me now being willing to come out of my comfort zone that maybe one of these politically aligned individuals are going to want to kill me to tell the person the truth. Now, until we get a leader, until we get a party, a nation, a movement, a group of Jamaicans, well-thinking Jamaicans who are willing to come out of their comfort zone and state the facts, act for the truth, act for a real improvement of the situation, a real solution to the problems, instead of hiding behind a particular party, even when you see them doing wrongs, just because you are aligned to this party. Let's speak the truth of the statistics.
Let me give Mr. Patterson a chance to respond. Can I give
well,
Mr. Patterson a chance to respond to that?
Well, no, I know. I'd want to respond because something was said that's quite concerning. I'm very disappointed that the act of domestic terrorism that took place last Sunday night was used in such a context to mislead our viewers.
Yeah.
It's I'm very disappointed that was done, and it's important again
It
to
falls
state
into the
the
statistics,
state
Mr.
Okay.
Brown.
it's
Once again,
important
gentlemen, gentlemen,
That you're going to know want to use a US
to
phrase
state the
to
fact.
take it
gentlemen,
out
we
of
can't all
homicide.
speak at the same time. Gentlemen, we all can't speak
It's
at the same time.
important. It's
Hold on a
important
second, Mr. Brown.
again.
Mr. Brown, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we have to
Mr.
have an
Moderator,
orderly,
thank you.
we have to have orderly discussion.
Well, let me continue.
Mr. Brown,
Let me.
hold on a second.
Give me
Mr.
a
Brown,
second.
hold on a second.
No.
Thank you.
I want to.
Mr. Brown, hold on a second.
No. I will not yield. I will not yield. I need to make this point, and I need to complete this point.
You spoke earlier, so just hold on a
Yeah.
second.
No, he raised a new point, and the moderator had given me the room to respond.
Mr. Brown,
The moderator.
Mr. Brown,
I want Mr. Brown to respond.
Yeah.
Yes,
We have to have a balanced discussion, and it has to be orderly. One person can't dog the mic for the whole night. So I'm going to give Mr. Patterson a chance to respond, and then we can come back.
One Jamaica TV.